like he's not feeling up to it today.
Sarah, I learned from Dora the Explorer.
So I guess I'll just speak in English this morning. So, good morning, everyone. It's a joy for me to be with you all again. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Sarah Alvord, and I grew up as a pastor's kid here in the United States. Spent most of my childhood and adolescence here in Florida. And after graduating from the university, where I studied social work in Spain, I worked here teaching English as a second language in the U.S., and I also served 1 year in Texas with the Nazarene Ministry Center there. Alright, there we go. My husband, who's that super beautiful man on the screen, is named Peru Salinas Watches. He has two last names because, fun fact, for those who aren't aware, in Latin America, when you have a child, the child receives the paternal last name of their father and the paternal last name of their mother. So, for example, my children will say, their name is Joy. She'll be Joy Salinas Alvord. So Dad gets to carry on the family name a little longer, which wasn't expected, but a nice little blessing there. And Peruvians also don't change their last name when they get married. So I'm still Alvord. I just, to make myself feel married, on Facebook I put DeSalinas because I wanted to have a name change because that's normal here. So I'm Sarah Alvord still. My husband Pedro was born and raised in the country of Peru. He studied systems engineering at the university, but during his last year at the university, he accepted the call from God to go into full-time ministry. We met in 2017 in Ecuador when he was studying to become a pastor there, and I also went to study Spanish. But it wasn't until my last year at Olivet, a couple years later, that we began talking, and well, we continued talking, and in 2022 we got married in Peru. So, I don't know, that they told us to do that, it was kind of cute. But anyway, at that time, Pedro was still working in Ecuador, so we actually, after we got married, we went back to Ecuador and lived there for about 4.5 months. Then, we accepted the invitation for my husband Pedro to be a youth pastor in Peru, so we moved back there. Today, he continues serving as a youth pastor there, and he is also a part of the District NYI Council. I continue working as an English as a second language teacher online for a public school in Illinois. That was a huge blessing. And I also serve as the child sponsorship coordinator for the country of Peru. Now, the original plan was for both of us to be up here, but due to some visa longevity, it's taking a while, he couldn't come this time. So we're hoping the next time he will have his tourist visa and be able to come visit as well. We have begun the process, but it's not finished yet. Alright, so now that you know a little bit more about us, I want to share with you a little bit about the country where we currently live and serve. So Peru, as you can see from these pictures, has beautiful masterpieces. One of them is called Lake Guamantai, which is on the left. It's nestled in the snowy mountains and it's turquoise. It's beautiful. On the right is something called Rainbow Mountain, which is made of different minerals that give it its different colors. And in the middle is an ancient Incan ruin, probably the most famous place in Peru, called Machu Picchu. So God has blessed this country. It is absolutely a gorgeous place to live. Now, to make learning about Peru less of a geography lesson and a little more entertaining, we're going to have some trivia questions, and I'll just ask you all, if you think you know, to yell at the answer. If not, I'll call on you. So, be prepared. But let's look at number 1. So as you know, Spanish is the main language spoken in Peru, but although it is the principal language, there are many other indigenous languages as well. So I'd like you to guess about how many languages do you think are spoken in Peru? The options are 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, or 60. Any guesses? 20? Okay, that's a good guess. Anybody else?
60.
60? Mm-hmm. It is actually 50. There are about, according to Google and ChatGPT, there are about 50 languages spoken in Peru. now, where Pedro and I live, we speak Spanish, thankfully, but they do sometimes mix some Quechua words with the language. So we're going to have a mini language lesson this morning, and we're going to learn some Quechua, which is an indigenous language. So I will teach you the word, and then we will repeat it all together and learn some Quechua this morning. The first word is huambrillo, which, as you can see below, is more of the American English spelling, huambrillo, and that means boy. So on the count of 3, I'd like us all to repeat this word together. Ready? Les, I want to hear you really loud, okay? Yeah. Huambrillo. 1, 2, 3. Huambrillo. Wow, fluent in Quechua already. The next one is my personal favorite. It's ñaña, which means sister. So on the count of 3, we'll all repeat sister in Quechua. Ñaña. 1, 2, 3. Ñaña. Very good. Muy bien. And the last one is upa, which means hard of hearing. So next time you didn't hear something, just said I'm a little upa today. I picked up Willy Wonka, but that's what comes to my head. So on the count of 3, what would be upa? 1, 2, 3. Upa. Very good. We're learning some Quechua this morning. Our next trivia question is more of a geography question, and it says there are 3 regions in Peru: the coastal, the mountainous, and the jungle region. What region do you think we live in? Some of you already know. What region do you think I live in? The coastal, the mountainous, or the jungle? Mountainous? Jungle? Let's see. I am now a jungle girl. I live in the jungle of Peru. So while we live in the zone of the Amazon rainforest, and there are monkeys and toucans and sloths not too far from us, but we do live in a city, in the Amazon rainforest. So it's not, when you think I live in the jungle, you probably think all I have is trees around me. No, it's an actual city, and our city is called Tarapoto, and it has a population of about 150,000 people, which when you come from Florida, that's a lot, okay? So that was a big change for me to live in a place with that many people. It's a fairly touristic city. It's one of the biggest in the Amazon area in Peru. And it's also, many people come to the city to work since it has a lot of businesses and the small villages don't have as much business. So here are some other pictures of Tarapoto. On the left is another view of the city, and on the right is one of the parks that I've been to frequently. There are parks throughout the city, which is nice because there is not a lot of green space. I miss my good old cornfield sometimes. But these are some pictures of Tarapoto. All right, number 3. What is the most common side dish for a Peruvian lunch? What do Peruvians eat a lot of? What do you think? Huh? Starts with an R and is little. Rice, yes. We eat a lot of rice in Peru. However, in addition to rice, some other common sides are plantains, potatoes, bean salad, and cassava, which is also known as yuca, and it's a root. Peru has some really unique foods, so we'll look through some of those real quick. One is stuffed potatoes, which is basically a big tater tot with stuff inside. It's really good, actually. Another one is fish, which I have asked before they serve it to me, could you just cut the head off and leave it in the kitchen for me? So, but I'm getting used to seeing the eye looking back up at me, and it's quite delicious. So there's fish and tecacho, which is a ball of plantain. Another one is guinea pig, which, believe it or not, is actually quite good. It's just if you're hungry and you finish it real fast, there's not much meat on it. So, but yeah, they do eat guinea pig there. I told them in the U.S. guinea pigs have names and toys, but there they are not quite as much pets as here. And the last one is fruit. They have a ton of different fruits all year round because it is a tropical climate. So we have some red bananas. I eat papaya about every day. And they also have things like guanabana, which is a big fruit that I hadn't experienced before as well. All right, so the fourth and final trivia question for now is, what is the primary form of transportation in the jungle cities of Peru? Yeah. Well, yes, it is motorcycles. So there you can see, this is just a street view of Tarapoto, and you see lined up, those are motor cars. The 2 common forms of transportation are motorcycles and moto cars. Moto cars are like motorcycles, they just have a seat in the front and then a bench with a covering in the back where they can fit 2 to 3 people. If you have kids, you just throw them on top. So it's fun. And moto cars are the taxis in the city, so you just flag them down and pay a few soles, which is the money they use there, to take you where you would like to go. One thing I've had to learn to do on the motorcycle is carry various items, such as this rooster, who was a Christmas gift from a lady in the church. So I've also carried a ceiling fan, my carry-on suitcase, and of course the groceries on the motorcycle. While I don't have my license yet, I have started learning, and I hope this year to get my motorcycle license so I can start driving around the city as well. Prayers appreciated. So now that I have a bit of background concerning what life is like in Peru, I'd like to share with you what God is doing through the Church of the Nazarene in this beautiful country. Alright, so the Church of the Nazarene came to Peru about 110 years ago in 1914 when a missionary, who was actually a pastor from the U.S., had a vision in which she saw a hand pointing towards an indigenous group of people in the Amazon. He was convinced that he was to go to Peru as a missionary, so he and his wife packed up, went to Peru, and paid for everything out of pocket because the Church of the Nazarene didn't enter Peru until 3 years later in 1917. And now, over 100 years later, there are currently 16 districts, 1,050 churches, and 80,000 Nazarenes in the country of Peru. My husband, as I mentioned previously, is currently a youth pastor in the Church of the Nazarene in Tarapoto, where he's humbled by the opportunity to minister to teens and young adults. And there he is. Oh, look at him. Okay. All right. So the NYI, or Nazarene Youth International in Peru, focuses on ministering to preteens, teens, and young adults until age 40. So if you're still under age 40, you're still a young adult, okay? Embrace that. If you're not, you're still a young adult in the heart, all right? So, and really, everyone is invited to the youth services there. The Tarapoto NYI has 4 biblical pillars that serve as the foundation for its ministry, and they are spirituality, discipleship, mission, and fellowship. Spirituality refers to communion with God, having a true relationship with Him. Discipleship refers to being and living like Jesus. Mission refers to carrying out God's mission in words and actions in the power of the Holy Spirit. And fellowship refers to life in community. This year, as the youth, we've been really focusing on encouraging everyone to dedicate themselves to having a devotional time with the Lord every day. Learning His Word, meditating on it, talking with Him. We've also been reaching out to the community by sharing the gospel in city parks, donating blood together, which I'll go back to in a second because that's interesting, and going to visit a children's shelter. So donating blood. Here we have blood drives every month, every 2 months in the United States. Many people in Peru have not donated blood before, and it's a little scary. So I'm going to tell a story about my brother-in-law, because he's not here, and he doesn't speak English anyway. So, no, my brother-in-law, he went to donate blood. I mean, pretty muscular guy, terrified, because he had never done it before. But the church decided, the NYI decided to do it together, and he and some other people gave blood, which is a really cool ministry in a way down in Peru. All right. And in addition, we have sports, Bible studies, and game nights throughout the year, which promote fellowship with one another. So those are the 4 pillars, but let's talk a little bit about sports for a second, because I mentioned that as part of our fellowship. What do you think are the 2 most popular sports in the country of Peru?
Soccer and volleyball. Yeah.
You got it! Yes, it is definitely soccer and volleyball. Very good. Yes, in fact, it's pretty common to go out late at night with your friends or people from the church, your family, and play sports. So, for example, we play sports at 10 p.m. to 11 p.m. on Thursdays. Soccer, I play volleyball, he plays soccer. It's pretty common. Nights get a little late here, so I'm there. So I'm really enjoying sleeping while I'm in the United States. All right. Now, while the original reason we moved to Peru was so that my husband could accept the call to serve as a youth pastor there, God has opened other doors for us to serve Him as well. And one of those is through the Nazarene Compassionate Ministries Child Sponsorship Program. About a year ago, the coordinator for the Nazarene world, I guess, in Peru and Bolivia called asking if I would be willing to be the national coordinator for this child sponsorship program. And I said no. No, thank you. That's a lot. But after praying and thinking about it and talking to my husband, we decided to accept the position. I say we because while I am the official coordinator, my husband is my right-hand man and has been a great help to me in this ministry. So, before sharing more about what my position entails, I'd like to explain a little bit what this program is. The Child Sponsorship Program through the Church of the Nazarene has two branches. They focus on pastors' kids and child development centers. And these children and teens are supported through monthly donations from sponsors and letters that are sent between the sponsors and the children. So as I said, the first group is PKs, or pastors' kids, and there are currently over 180 in the program just in Peru. The money given to them is used to help expenses related to schooling, such as uniforms, tuition, etc. And as we all know, kids say the most interesting things. So I'd like to share with you kind of a funny story about a pastor's kid, and we say the more interesting things sometimes, we're crazy, but pastor's kid that was passed down through the generations, and it's pretty funny, so I'd like to share it with you. So, a few years back, a sponsor received a letter from the pastor's kid that they were sponsoring in Peru. And in this letter, the child had written that his father had used the money donated to buy something needed, and that thing was a machete, okay? So, a machete isn't on a typical Peruvian school supply list. So as this money was supposed to be used for schooling, and the father had used it to buy a machete, the sponsor was a little concerned and contacted Nazarene Compassion Ministries. When the child's family was questioned about the situation, it was discovered that the child and the other children in the village had to walk through the mountains, a winding trail or something like that, to get to school. So I'm not sure if it looked like this, but for now we will pretend it did. And the child's father, the pastor of the church, bought the machete to whack a trail that was more direct to go to school. So this gift, it was pretty funny, but this gift was used to help facilitate both the child's education and other children in the village. Now, that's not typically what it's used for, but I thought it was pretty funny that they used it for machete. Now, as I previously mentioned, we work with pastors' kids and also child development centers. Child development centers are initiated by the church, and they're a place where children can come and receive different types of care, like maybe a meal, definitely things like discipleship, maybe they have sports nights, they celebrate birthdays together, and currently we have 8 of these centers in Peru, and within those centers, over 200 of the kids are sponsored. All right, we're gonna skip because that was a lot. Keep going. One more. Yes, okay. I would like to share with you this video. It is in Spanish, but there are English subtitles. It might be hard to read, but hopefully it will give you an idea of some of the atmosphere of South America. And this video is special for me as well because my husband, when he worked in Ecuador, he helped film this video. So it is a story from a child that was sponsored. All right. And if it doesn't work, we'll just keep going this way.
Donde yo vivo es un lugar hermoso, hay montañas, es un lugar fresco donde hace mucho viento. Estoy en 5º grado de primaria. Mi materia favorita es arte. Lo que más me gusta es pintar con témpera. Y yo leo la Biblia y aprendo muchas cosas sorprendentes sobre ella. Tengo 2 hermanos. Yo tengo a mi papá, pero bueno, no me viene a visitar. Ahora no sé dónde está, hace 2 años que no lo veo. Yo vivo con mi mamá. Ella cuando era pequeña, cuando nació, ya no veía un poco, pero como pasteaba las ovejas y miraba mucho el reflejo del sol y eso le dañó al ojo. Cuando yo nací veía un poco, pero ahora no miro nada. Y yo le ayudo en muchas cosas, como a veces en cocinar, porque le puede pasar algo. Como no ve, no puede caminar, pero yo le guío a lugares donde puede ir ella. Llegué a los 3 años al proyecto, mi mamá me llevó, mis hermanos también fueron parte, ahí yo estudiaba o aprendía cosas, aprendí a pintar con témperas, aprendí a dibujar, ahora estoy con una maestra llamada Kelly que me enseña manualidades. Los días sábados hay talleres de coreografía, talleres de teatro y ajedrez y batería. Almorzamos en la cocina y de 2 a 3 de la tarde hacemos coreografías. Me encantamos las alabanzas, sé jugar ajedrez, me gusta jugar ajedrez y alabar al Señor. A mí me gustaría ser maestra de inicial porque me gusta enseñar a los demás. Mi deseo es construir una casa más grande para que sea un poco más cómodo. Me siento feliz por el apoyo que me dan en el proyecto. Estoy agradecida a Dios porque ha recibido en mi corazón.
Alright, so that is Maria's story. And she said, I'm happy because I've accepted God in my heart. So, alright, so talking about more of how I am connected with that program. What I do as the sponsorship coordinator involves making sure letters are translated between sponsors and the children. I'm also the point of contact for questions the child development centers may have. I submit applications for new children to come in, and I update the children's profiles, things like that. So a lot of my work is behind a phone or a computer, so it's always encouraging for me to see the real life of what's happening what I'm part of, I guess we could say, even though I don't work directly with the kids at this point. All right, and I'm very grateful, I want to always mention this, I'm very grateful for the team I work with. My husband is a great help to me, and I have at every child development center, there's a director that I work with. We have coordinators in every district where the pastor's kids are. I have a translation team. It's a huge blessing. Without them and without the Lord, I could not do this, so I'm very grateful. All right, so before we finish our time together today, I'd like to share with you a brief story from my time in Peru. I was at a church service one evening, and my father-in-law, who isn't a pastor but in some ways serves as one, was giving the message that evening. The passage we read that night had something to do with Sodom and Gomorrah, of all things, and while I honestly don't remember exactly what the sermon was about, I remember that I felt God was telling me that I wasn't to look back. In the passage about Sodom and Gomorrah, which is found in Genesis 19, Lot and his family had been told to leave the city where they were living and flee. They were not to look back. Lot's wife, however, looked back and turned to a pillar of salt. Many of us know the story. For me, what I felt God was showing me that evening was that I was to stop looking back, or stop constantly comparing the previous life I had in the United States to the life I had in Peru, but instead move forward in the new life I had there. So I ask you, and I ask myself, where are we looking? Real quick, if you want, you can turn with me. I also put it on the screen, but it's tiny. So it's Hebrews 12, 1 through 3. Hebrews 12, 1 through 3, and it says, Therefore, since we are surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses, let us throw off everything that hinders and the sin that so easily entangles, and let us run with perseverance the race marked out for us, fixing our eyes on Jesus, the pioneer and perfecter of faith. For the joy set before him, he endured the cross, scorning its shame, and sat down at the right hand of the throne of God. Consider him who endured such opposition from sinners, so that you will not grow weary and lose heart. This verse talks about where we should be looking. Many of you, I see Mr. Lesko over there, who was one of our track coaches for quite a while. I was also a runner. Wasn't very good, but I was. And when we're running a race, if we take time to look back, we're going to lose time. You know, if we're focused on the crowd that's cheering around us, we're going to get distracted. We need to keep our eyes focused on Jesus. This says, keep our eyes on Jesus. Fix them on him. We shouldn't simply be looking to cultural practices or beliefs. We shouldn't be looking at sin. We shouldn't be living in sin. And for me, I shouldn't be spending time always comparing my life how it was to my life how it is, comparing myself to others. We should be looking at Christ. So I want to ask you, where are your eyes? Where are your eyes today? And to end, I roped my sister into singing a song with me. So we are going to sing a song together. You're welcome to just listen or sing along if you would like. This song is called Oceans, and it reminds us of Peter, who Jesus called out onto the water, to walk on the water. Church, I challenge you and encourage you to keep your eyes on Jesus. Step out on the water towards Him. Maybe that means putting your faith in Him for the first time. Maybe that means coming to Him again, leaving sin behind. But I encourage you as we listen to these words this morning and as we continue on with the lives He's given us here on earth. Feel free to sing along if you know this song. It's called Oceans, and or just listen and